This is the new full-bore project car. It's a 1985 Toyota Land Cruiser Bundera. Now, if you don't know what a Bundy is, it's essentially the first light-duty Land Cruiser, the predecessor to the Toyota Prado. So, it's pretty much a Land Cruiser body and chassis with a Hilux engine and light-duty Hilux diffs. Now, what makes these things special is the fact that they use coil springs on all four corners. Now they're pretty rare in Australia, and this one we got for the correct price. It's for my brother, and our task today is to try and figure out what is wrong with this 22R petrol engine. It's pretty sickly, so we'll have to try and figure out why it's running like poo-poos. What we've got on the chopping block today is a 1985 Toyota Land Cruiser Bundera. Now these things are rare as hen's teeth, and if you're an avid full-bore watcher, you'd be familiar with the fact that we've already got a few of these. But this is the most recent addition to the club. 1985 model, hard top, got the 22R petrol engine under the bonnet. Now it's straight on this side and fairly rust-free, but unfortunately it is not straight on this side. But anyways, the main thing with this car is we're trying to get it up and running. We're going to clean up the rust and turn it into a nice off-roader for Brendan, so he can come forward driving with Dave and I in all of our Bundies. So it's going to be pretty sick. But unfortunately this 22R is a bit sickly. It's low on compression, and also it has a bit of oil in the coolant, which is never a good sign. So what we'll probably find is that this thing's got a blown head gasket, and Dave reckons that it might also have a bent valve because it sat around for a while. Maybe a bit of valve on piston crashage happened. But what I'm going to do is give you an idea as to what the compression's like. I'll give it a crank in a second. Oh, it started straight up.
I've disconnected it this side.
Beauty. Ready? So that real offbeat cranking sound is a surefire sign of low compression. Well, it definitely has low compression. So we're going to zippity zap the bonnet off, get all the ancillaries off this thing out of the car, and that way we can put it on an engine stand, and whilst we're at it we'll clean up the firewall, which has a fair amount of rust in it as well. So let's get cracking. Want to pull the rocker cover off? It's like it's been off recently. Those rubbers were nice and fresh. That's clean as a bean.
Clean, isn't it? It's a lot better than I expected to see.
Man, that's mint.
I was expecting to see some humidity.
Blown head gasket.
Can't really crank it either, got the battery out of it.
Wow, that's made in Korea. It's hardly been used.
Oh.
Well, it hasn't been used.
No.
It's weird, it's got this sticker in on the back of the head. I'd say it's a rebuilt. I reckon it's been rebuilt. It's got a mono-torque head gasket and it's blown. So it's got a sticker that says, "The square turns black when exposed to..."
If it's overheated.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put that on exchange engine. So it could be a complete exchange. So if I let this down, you should be able to just push this out of the way, shouldn't you?
Yep. With the 22R out of its engine bay, it was time to diagnose why it was so low on compression. Now, of course, we were going into this thinking that it was going to be something catastrophic, like a blown head gasket, a bent valve, even a cracked piston or something like that. But of course, not all things end up being quite as bad as you'd expect. That's really nice, eh?
Yeah.
Yep. Heavy?
A little bit.
This will be the real interesting bit.
Is that Ben?
Well, there you have it, boys and girls. We've got the 22R out of the Bundy. Now, we haven't found anything that explicitly shows us where our loss of compression is, but we've got the cylinder head here, and Dave's just going to check to see if we've got a bent valve, or at least a valve that is not seating properly. And he's just filling the combustion chambers with a bit of whatever that is, diesel-y petrol of some description.
Well, that's interesting.
It's not flowing out like a sieve like we'd thought.
Even if that is leaking, it's such a small leak, it should have had, it just clearly had no compression, didn't it?
Hmm. How odd. What a roller coaster of emotions today has been. Motor's out of the Bundy, obviously. Now, when we first bought this thing, it was super low on compression. You could have absolutely sworn that it was cooked, or had a blown head gasket or a bent valve or something. That in conjunction with the oil in the radiator, which now we suspect is somebody has just accidentally poured some in there or something stupid. But the main culprit for the biggest concern, which was of course the low compression, a riding valve. A riding inlet valve. Well, two of them actually are riding, but one of them of course more so than the other, to the extent where you have a really distinctive low compression on one cylinder. Now, this might seem like a little bit of a funny thing because we have of course completely stripped an engine out of a car, pulled the cylinder head off to find that this is the case, and we could probably have just fixed it in the car. But we definitely needed to get this engine out for the rust in the firewall, and we have also found that the top of the pistons have a washed section, a clean section right around the perimeter, which highly suggests that it was consuming oil. So what we're going to do now, of course, give this thing a massive freshen up and put a new set of rings in it before it goes back in the vehicle. Which is interesting in itself, considering that this engine has obviously been rebuilt at some stage, and whether or not when they rebuilt it they left these tight, I don't know. You'd guess that it'd burn out a valve before then, wouldn't you? And also the fact that it's been obviously freshened up and it's got that ring around the piston means that, well, maybe they only just slapped a cylinder head on it.
I think it's done a fair few Ks since it was freshened up though.
So I don't know, have they gotten in here and just had absolutely no idea what they were doing, and
someone could have messed it up?
Or has the valve sunk into the head? Which never really happens on stuff like this, does it?
Generally not, no.
Well, there you go, boys and girls. Judging by the sound of this engine when we first bought it, we were fearing the worst. We thought it was completely knackered, but something as simple as poor valve adjustment can mean that your engine will run like absolute dog's balls and essentially sound like it's due for the bin. But that's a better result than what we were expecting. So what we're going to do is chuck a set of rings and bearings in this bad boy, as well as a full gasket set, because this newest member of our vehicular family is going to be set up for years of fun with the rest of the Bundera group. Anyway, you will definitely see this cruiser on a future episode of Full Bore, and we'll catch you next time.